and spoons, welcome to the Spoonie channel where we are unfiltered, unafraid, and pain recognizes pain. Having a really bad day today. Bad pain-wise, but bad mentally. And I knew that when I was having a bad mental day that I needed to, just like I said in the video before, because I'm trying to listen to myself, I needed to choose to be happy. And one of the two things that make me the happiest are my husband and my son. And I had started the first part of my epic love story, and I haven't finished it because, you know, we got on Spoonie stuff, and I want to stay on that. But I also think that an escape is what everybody needs sometimes. So if this isn't your cup of tea, I'm sorry. You know, I have lots of Spoonie stuff coming, lots of chronic pain, pain-related things, but I needed to feel some love today. I needed to feel some love and reminisce about how my husband and I fell in love. And if you missed the first part of our epic love story, I'll put a card up in the screen, here or here. I don't know where it's going to pop up, but it'll be there. And yeah, catch up, because where we left off, I had just gotten kissed in the rain. Yeah, Fabio, hair blowing in the wind, rain, like, whipped me around, planted one on me. Ugh. So my heart is like, whew. I had already said, yes, I would go back to his barracks. Now look, I had boyfriends all through high school, so this was a new thing for me. I don't know how to date. I don't know if you're supposed to go up. I don't know if you're supposed to say, no, I'm going to go home. But let's keep in mind, before we go into this, let's keep in mind that I'm staying with my cousin and her husband. So they are responsible for me. I'm still 17. I've graduated high school, but I'm still 17. So just keep that in your mind when I tell you this story. Okay? So we go up to my husband's room. And like I said, it's basically a motel. You walk in. There's bunk beds. There's 2 seats. There's a TV. They have a bathroom that's connected to the room on the other side of them. And that's it. I mean, they might have had a closet that they had to stuff their stuff in somewhere, but I mean, it's minimal. It's the Air Force. And his roommate was there. I won't say his name, but to this day, I love his roommate. His roommate was just the best. He listened to Sublime on repeat. And that's the only reason that I know all the words to the Sublime songs, is because he would listen to it on repeat. And when I get into some of this stuff, you'll know that there were times that we were just there together. You know, if I came up to visit my now husband, you know, there were times where he had to go to work, and his roommate and I would just chill out together. He was that cool of a dude. He is that cool of a dude. Like, if you knew what he did now, he's just so smart and so cool. So I went up, I met his roommate, awesome, nice guy, totally understanding. He's on the top bunk, so he kind of crawls up on the top bunk and gives us the bottom bunk for our privacy. Now, let me talk to you for you know, a minute. We did not go the full Monty that night. Let's just go there. We did not go the full distance. There was no home plate. There was no home plate in that ball field. You get what I'm saying? We were there. We talked for hours. I'm not saying that we didn't fool around. Look, we did. He was hot. He is hot. I mean, look, we fooled around and stuff, but it was talking. It was connecting, you know, everything that we talked about. And we came from 2 very different backgrounds, but just the way that we looked at things, our morals, our direction in life, we got each other, and we're talking and talking and talking. And now as an adult, I feel like such a jerk, because during this whole time, I have not once called my cousin or her husband. Now, keep in mind, people, this was 1997. So there weren't cell phones, you couldn't just pick stuff up, but that's not an excuse. There was a phone in his room and there was a phone in their house, and I didn't call. Looking back as a parent, ugh, I am so mad that I did this to them. So my cousin's husband, it's probably midnight, and he and my husband had, they work on the same jet, and my husband had gone over to their house, but they hadn't, hung out a lot together. I think that was the first time that they had hung out personally. So he didn't know where my husband's room was. He knew the general area. Now keep in mind, this is a giant motel full of Air Force men. And boy, he came and stood on the floor, on the ground. My husband, I think, was on the second or third floor. And he stood down there, and he shouted for the entire barracks to hear, "Are you coming home tonight?" We walked out, and I was like, yeah, coming home right now. I mean, and he wasn't mean about it. He was just like, come on. Are you coming home tonight? Are you going to leave us like this? And now I'm thinking back, especially with all the true crime videos I watch, like, how do I not let people know where I am and what I'm doing? This is why I fear for my son. Either way. Digressing. So, we're there, we had this great night, and he called me that second day, and he's like, hey, want to go hang out? Want to go to a car show? He was working what I believe was EOR, which is end of runway. So they were kind of doing the last checks before the planes took off to do whatever. They're jets. They're not planes, they're jets. They take off to do whatever the jets do, maneuvers, exercises, I don't know. But it meant he got out earlier. He got out around like 12, 1 o'clock. So we got to hang out a lot. And I think I was there for 2 weeks. So for those 2 weeks, I barely saw my cousin and her husband. Barely. We spent almost every waking minute together. And here is one of the funniest stories. So I'm just going to keep it real with you. The first night, there was no home base or home plate. Second night, there was. And what's funny is, once again, you have the privacy of somebody on the top bunk. Now, sometimes they had alternating shifts, but let's get into exactly what happened. Why his roommate kind of made a speedy retreat. And I feel bad, but it was really funny at the time. So, this didn't happen the first or second night. I'm not that mean. But once I had gotten to know his roommate, probably a week in or something, we were laying on the bottom bunk, and it was nighttime, and I whispered to my husband, watch this. And I just let out this moan, and then I kicked the bottom side of his bunk so hard. And I kid you not, I have never seen a human being catapult themselves off of a bed so quickly. Like, he came out the end of the bed and hit the floor and was out the door. It was so funny. I'm so sorry, but it was so funny. And later, because he went and stayed with a friend, like, he was so traumatized. I traumatized him so much that he went and stayed with a friend. I'm sure it was more to give us privacy, but he stayed with one of their mutual friends. And, when you're in the Air Force, you have duties you have to do. And this was a couple days later, they had to clean the outside of the barracks. And we came back, we were, I don't know, doing something, because we were out together watching movies, going to car shows, going to, air shows. We were just anything that we could do together. We were together. And written in soap on the window was, "Can I come back now?" It was so funny. So at the end of that 2 weeks, we decided to, let his roommate back in, and we rented a room at the Billadine. that's what basically their on-base hotel was called. And while we were at the Billie Dean, I had told my husband earlier, even though I knew that I was in love with him, like from the first minute I knew I was in love with him and I wanted to marry him. I had told him, I'm like, I don't trust people that say I love you right away. And I didn't say it. I knew it, but I didn't say it. So I can remember it vividly in my mind. It was dark. We were laying in bed. And he just looked at me and he said, I have something to say, but I don't want you to get mad. And I'm like, okay. That's never a good way to start something, right? Especially when I'm getting ready to leave. Imagine where my mind was going. And I'm like, okay. And he said, I love you. And I, just like his roommate, flew off the bed, butt naked. I'm storming back and forth going, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to process this. I can't believe you just said that. And then finally, in some deep recess of my mind, I went, why are you being such an idiot? And I sat back down on the bed and I was like, I love you too. And from then on, I left and he came to visit me. I would go to visit him. And here's the thing, you guys. This was a pre-internet relationship. You know that I'm a senior Spoonie over here. But I did one of the greatest, I'm so proud of myself. We've been together for 22 years. This year we'll be married for 20. But this is my book. I kept a book. And in here, I mean, I'm not going to show you everything, but the letters that he wrote me, we would write back and forth. I have pictures and movie stubs. I have our plane tickets, trips to Busch Gardens. Just, I kept it all. Every word that he wrote me. And, you know, we would go back and forth and we would visit and he came down. I was still living with my parents. And my parents let him come down because I had just told my mom, I'm like, this is it. This is the one. So they had let him come down and stay with us. Yeah, so he came down and I would go up and we would write these intricate love letters to one another. And he would send me flowers and I would stuff, you know, heart tissue paper into my letters. And it was this long distance phone relationship. And we just got these periods of time where we got to hang out with one another. But every time was so special. Well, cut to, he's about, I would say a couple months away from being, maybe a month away from being deployed to Saudi Arabia. And he was going out with some friends one night and I had my cousin and one of my friends over. I was a goody-goody all through school. I didn't do a damn thing. So that night, my cousin was like, we're going to get you drunk. And boy, did they. I mixed Goldschlager, I mixed Jack Daniels, I mixed wine coolers, I can't even tell you what else I mixed. They had to stop me from eating cat food. And this is not a proud moment. I am not telling you to get this drunk. But I had no idea my limits. I had no idea not to mix this stuff, like nothing. And baby was I sick. Oh, I was sick. And I was sick I had a hangover the next day. And then the day after that, I was still sick. And something in my mind was like, we're not right. We're not right. And I don't know where to put this in. I'm going to put it in the end. So I went to my mom and I said 2 streets over was a free pregnancy testing clinic. And I said to my mom, I think I need to go over there. I need you to take me. I was on the pill. I just want to put that out there because I don't want people to think that we were irresponsibly having sex. I understand nowadays, you know, the implications of everything that you need to use to make sure that you're safe, not just from pregnancy, but also from sexually transmitted diseases. Hear me. But we went over and I was pregnant. And I was 17. And we had known each other months. and he was in the Air Force getting ready to be deployed. And I had to call him. I called him on the phone. It's going to make me cry. But I called him on the phone because I had to, you know, and I started it off with, I'm pregnant. I'm sorry. I was on the pill. You know, I understand if this is too much for you. We barely know each other. I'm not gonna make you take care of this baby. Ooh, do you hear? I didn't do my makeup to cry. I said, you don't have to take care of this baby, but I will. I've got it. And, God, this is so my husband. He said, okay, I have to go to work. And that's not a line. I mean, anybody who's in the military know you have to be there for muster or whatever they call it. He had to go to work. He said, but I'll call you when I get home. Okay, I had no other choice, right? So I'm sitting there for the full day, a wreck, an absolute wreck, waiting for this phone call. And I know what time he gets home, so I know what time he's supposed to be calling. So as the time that he's coming home is approaching, and as it's gotten there, there's a boulder in my stomach, and I can't think, I can't breathe, I can't do anything, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and he hasn't called. And in my mind, that's the worst possible case, bar none. Like, he's just not calling me back. So I mustered up my bravery, and I called him. And when I called him, I could hear people in the background, and I'm like, hey, what you doing? He's like, oh, I have some friends over and we're playing games. And I went, you were supposed to call me back. I've been panicked. I've been waiting. And this is the man that my husband is. And this is really why I'm emotional about talking about it. The reason he had people over, the reason he hadn't called me back, his response was, well, of course we're going to be together. Of course we're going to take care of this baby. Of course we're going to be a family. I didn't think you questioned that. Why would you do this alone? In his mind, there was absolutely no reason why I should be freaking out about this. In his mind, because that's the man he is, he's like, well, of course, this is what we do. So, over the phone, we decided, all right, we're going to be a family. And 1 month, he was deployed to Saudi Arabia for 2 months, 2 or 3 months, I can't remember. But beforehand, he sent me apartment books because I was going to have to move up there. Apartment books. He sent me his checkbook and all of his bills to pay while he was deployed. And that was it. And the worst part is, in Virginia, they're awfully strict. In 1997, they were, and I don't know how they are now, but they were quite religious. And nobody wanted to rent to an unmarried couple that were pregnant. And I wasn't working. So there was a lot of strikes against us. And it just so happened that in one of the apartment books that he sent me, I wrote a letter pleading our case, saying, we are a young family. My husband is in the Air Force. We are trying to, build a life, and we just need somebody to take a chance on us. And this woman did. She gave us the apartment. So we had a place to live when my husband came back from Saudi Arabia, and I was however many months pregnant I was. And we'll leave it at that. And there's going to be more. I know it's taking a long time, but this is such a unique situation. This is such a crazy way that we met. And this happened, and for me to be sitting here 22 years later, it's mind-blowing to me. So I have to tell it with the pomp and circumstance and the detail that it deserves, because it's awesome, and he's awesome, and even just taking this time to talk about it with you guys has lifted my mental spirit. So I just want to say thank you for listening to my epic love story. And as always, pain recognizes pain, and I see you. I love you guys.